Good morning and greetings to the nation around the world. I'm Jacob Rumbiak, spokesperson of the United Liberation Movement for West Papua. On behalf of the people of West Papua, I'm planting this tree to commemorate the life and vision of Mr. Hammarskjöld, who was the United Nations General Secretary in 1961. Mr. Hammarskjöld fought to protect all nations' right to self-determination, including those who were blocked by the capitalist powers. It was the agents of the powers who killed him in the Congo in 1961 to stop his mission to free the world of colonialism, racism, and slavery. While his body has gone, the spirit of truth did not die. Nations in Asia, Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific got their freedom, and we West Papua, we get ours too. Mr. Hammarskjöld's body was buried in the earth and become fertilizer for germination of his mission and ideas. This tree is a symbol of his enduring spirit. God said that those who sow the seeds of struggle with tears, sweat, and suffering will reap the rewards of joy, happiness, and eternal life. The time of harvest has come, and nations around the world are remembering you, Mr. Hammarskjöld, as the real hero and founding father of the right of self-determination independence in the United Nations. Thank you.
Fademko Kami. My name is Babuan Mirino, the chairman of Federal West Papua Womens Office in Docklands, Victoria, Melbourne, Australia. I stand here to planting this kaffir lemon tree to commemorate life division of Mr. Dag Hammarskjöld for national self-determination and peace. Mr. Dag Hammarskjöld was United Nations Secretary General between 1953 and his death in 1961 in still suspicious circumstances. With his spirit and mission as Melanesian woman from West Papua, I called upon Indonesia government to stop human rights abuse to all women in West Papua and give self-determination to Tanah Papua because, one, everyone has the right to nationality. Two, no one shall arbitrarily deprive it of his national self-determination and peace.
I'm planting this tree in honour of Dag Hammarskjöld, former UN Secretary General, described by W.H. Auden as a great, good and lovable man. The tree planting is also about healing and renewal in the Congo and our responsibility for justice in West Papua, which Hammarskjöld was pursuing until his untimely death in 1961. May this little tree and what it represents grow and flourish. Turn it off.
I and Bulla, we're the Golding family and we live in Melbourne, Australia. Today we're planting an azalea tree in commemoration of UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld, who was trying to support West Papua's plight for self-determination.
Hi, my name is Gil Santos, Timorese-born activist and musician, live in Australia, Brian Bright, Victoria. Today, I'd like to plant this tree in commemoration of Dag Hammarskjöld contribution to peacemaking and development of the United Nations. We remember the Second Secretary General for his ethical, moral, visionary and human peacemaking at this time of the United Nations 75th birthday, when our world is in need of qualities such as this, to help self-determination for nations, struggling against oppressions, climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic. May the legacy of his life, work and writing continues to inspire present and future leaders to assist the refine the United Nations role to bring peace and healing to our world. We lament Dag Hammarskjöld's ultimately death and at the OPEC's plan not implemented that would have secured West Papua self-determination. May this tree be reminded that truth, justice, liberation, and love cannot die, and that Dag Hammarskjöld's life and legacy is on to inspire us now and for future generations. Happy birthday to the United Nations. For you, Dag Hammarskjöld.
Years ago, on this day, the 18th of September, Dag Hammarskjöld was killed in Zambia. On behalf of Free West Papua Ballarat Support Group, I'd like to welcome everyone to this tree planting in memory and in honour of Dag Hammarskjöld. Thank you. Dr. Lance Collins will now give us an outline of Dag's life. Lance, in a former career, was Lieutenant Colonel, head of military intelligence in Timor-Leste during 20 years ago during the humanitarian intervention. Thank you, Lance.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and congratulations to the Ballarat people for having weather like this. I want to make a few remarks about Hammarskjöld and who he was as a man. Some remarks about the Congo, because that's unfortunately how he achieved such fame, and a few remarks about his legacy. He was a Swedish economist and diplomat, born into one of the top families in Sweden, and he was an economist and diplomat, as I've said. He was appointed Secretary General to the UN in its early days, at the age of 47, and that's still the record for the youngest Secretary General. He loved painting, poetry and music, and he was also a noted athlete. He engaged in gymnastics, mountain climbing and skiing. At the age of 56, he died in a plane crash in Zambia, northern Rhodesia, the accounts give it. And at the time he was flying to negotiate a ceasefire between the new established Democratic Republic of the Congo and Congolese rebels who were based in the southeast of the country. He was a noted UN reformer, and he was engaged in trying to seek an accord between Israel and the Arab states. He negotiated the release of US prisoners after the Korean War, and he formed the UN Emergency Force and engaged in the ceasefire after the Suez Crisis in 1956. In 1960, he was engaged to participate or lead the peacekeeping efforts in the Congo crisis, which lasted from 1960 to until 1965, cost about 100,000 lives. The term Congo crisis refers to the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is south of the Congo River, that is based on a former Belgian colony which was noted for its notorious human rights abuses. Just to clarify, there's another Republic of the Congo, which is based on the former French colony of French Equatorial Africa, and that is on the northern side of the Congo. In the southern part of the southern country, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the capital today is Kinshasa, a city of 14 million people on the banks of the Congo River. The crisis began almost immediately after the colony won its decolonisation struggle from Belgium, and was basically around divisions between factions in the army, ethnic factions with sort of tribal secession. It became a proxy part of the Cold War between the Americans basically and the Soviets, and there were legacy mining interests and so on from Belgium, so it became a fairly nasty mess. Some of the peacekeepers sent under Dag Hammarskjöld's leadership were Irish troops, and as an introduction to the next part, I might point out that the Irish made quite a good film about some of these troops. 155 of them were besieged at a place called Jabbotsville by between 3,000 and 5,000 Tanganese rebels, supported by a strong contingent, about 300 of Belgian, French, South African and other European mercenaries who had heavy weapons and a ground attack aircraft. The Irishmen held out for 5 days before their water, ammunition and food ran out, and they inflicted disproportionate casualties on the Tanganese movement. What's significant about Jabbotsville is that it's a few miles from a major mine which was identified by the US Manhattan Project as a uranium mine, and it was from that mine near Jabbotsville that uranium used in the bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was obtained. So the mining interests were a big part of the problems in the Congo after decolonisation. The film gives a pretty good account of what was going on in the different factions and interests behind the scenes, and it also provides a segment which recreates the death of Dag Hammarskjöld in the plane crash. The 1962 inquiry by the Rhodesian government found that pilot error caused the crash, but this has been challenged significantly. The UN inquiry not long after that found an open verdict, if you like. Other inquiries suggest that the plane was shot down with the CIA blaming the Russians. In 1998, the South African government obtained documents in its reconciliation process, which pointed to the plane being shot down as well. In 2015, the UN Secretary General ordered another investigation, which gave moderate value to these planes, and noted that aircraft and intelligence assets from unknown countries were in the area of the crash at the time. Research for a 2019 documentary film, indicated that a Belgian pilot, Dan van Rissengem, with mercenary associations, who flew with the Royal Air Force in the Second World War and married a British wife, had been named as shooting down Hammarskjöld's aircraft. As recently as May this year, the United Kingdom government, in contrast to many other states, reiterated its long-standing refusal to not release intelligence documents relating to the case. These represent merely a sliver of the widespread and growing containment to establishing the facts of the crash. Be that as it may, the following bloody decades of decolonisation around the world might have been different if Dag Hammarskjöld had lived to lead the United Nations organisation to its highest ideals. In the event, and closer to home, the sham 1963 UN-sponsored plebiscite that delivered half of the island of New Guinea and its people to the Indonesian military might have been conducted differently had Dag Hammarskjöld lived. 16 people lost their lives in that crash in September 1961. Many more have lost their lives from that crash since. In the end, Dag Hammarskjöld wrote his own legacy. He said, "We are not permitted to choose the frame of our destiny, but what we put into it is ours. He who wills adventure will experience it, according to the measure of his courage. He who wills sacrifice will be sacrificed, according to the measure of his purity of heart." Dag Hammarskjöld should be remembered.
Now, Bill on Brett Edgerton, Secretary of Ballarat and Western Regions Trade Service. Just had a couple of years.
Thank you, brothers and sisters. I just reiterate pretty much what Lance has summed up, that but for a moment in time, but for a different decision, the world today could be a very different place. For the people of the Congo, for the people of West Papua, for the people of other nations like Western Sahara, that had the Decolonization Program been allowed to continue, had Dag not died in the plane crash on that day, we may live in a very different world. So today, I think we pause to remember his untimely death, but to also reiterate the very strong need in our world to reinvigorate and reimagine his ideals, his vision for a world and for peoples of formerly colonised nations to have their democratic freedoms and rights in determining and self-determining the future of their countries. So, thank you.
Decolonization City of Ballarat Deputy Mayor Linda Coates to say a few things and then formally thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks everyone for attending today. It's so nice to see you all here. I'll acknowledge that we're gathering on Wadawurrung land and pay respect to the traditional custodians and acknowledge their ongoing connection to the land and waterways, and also acknowledge that Australia is a colonised country as well. So thank you to John Lawrence and Free West Papua Ballarat for organising the day. Thank you to Ballarat Trades Hall for the support, and thank you to Dr. Lance Collins for those incredible words to fill us in on the background and the story of the significance today. And it is really dear to my heart, the movements associated with peace, with democracy, diplomacy and decolonisation. So I'd also like to thank our City of Ballarat staff for supporting this day today and providing the tree. So we have a beautiful white cedar which also grows in West Papua apparently, and we have some staff here with us to assist with the planting in honour of Dag Hammarskjöld, and hopefully we get some beautiful rain over the weekend to help it grow and flourish, and we can come back here and acknowledge this as a very significant event and moment. So thank you all, and I'll now officiate and call over some City of Ballarat staff to help assist in planting this tree, because it's pretty big, and we'll get it in the ground. So thanks everyone.
Thank you to the City of Ballarat for providing the beautiful tree and the place.
Thank you. Great. Did you hear that, everyone? Thank you so much for providing the beautiful tree and the space to plant it and the assistance to lift it into the ground. What would you like me to do?
How desperate would you have to be to send your child or your little baby tiny boat crossed treacherous seas to find safety in another country. Right now, as I sing this song, people wait for us to come along to make right what is being done wrong. The time is now, 'cause we haven't got long.
In the name of West Papua, let us ask the Spirit of God to bring harmony, the Spirit of God to bring peace, the Spirit of God to bring justice to the nation.
Dag Hammarskjöld and his role in the 1960s when he was preparing nations all around the world for independence and setting in really good structures of governance, and he was a Swedish Secretary General of the United Nations, and he was a man of great vision and ethical and moral integrity, and he was really a well-loved man in those circles. And so it was great sadness when, in suspicious circumstances, he was killed in Katanga in the Congo.
We plant this tree in commemoration of Dag Hammarskjöld's contribution to peacemaking and the development of the United Nations.
Lucky we brought Ross. Is it a super dwarf Fuji apple tree chosen by Sahaya for her garden and Ilia's garden? Has been donated by Ross and Mary Martin. Thank you kindly, you two. It's a lovely gesture. And it's the Hammarskjöld Papuan tree.
Just hope that our energy and our prayers here today make a difference and that United Nations listens.
Beautiful people, because I went right down to the border on West and East Papua, and they were very happy people. But unfortunately now they've been overrun by Indonesia. They are in a bad state, and I don't think the world knows about this. And United Nations should do something about it, because it's just suppression, straight out suppression by the Indonesians.
Like a river flowing out you and me, flowing out to the desert, Australians, can you hear the cries of neighbors calling as they die? We think that words like genocide are a nightmare from a time gone by. Australians, can you hear the cries of neighbors calling as they die? We think that words like genocide.
Ohing Centro Pensar Dom Boaventura Manfahi, Centro de Desenvolvimento Comunidade Kablaki, Kuda Haliwang Idane, onde celebra Tinan, Itunulo Lima, aniversário em Indonesia, no Hodi Hanai, Dag Hammarskjöld, ex-secretário-geral das Nações Unidas, e Tinan reunião da Tucia Limanur Senida, até Tinan reunião da Tucia Nenulur Sentolo. Onde Hanoi Hetan Mos, nia serviço para autodeterminação e descolonização, para colonizado Sira, anesan Mos West Papua. Da maneira, organizações Sira e Timor-Leste, uso UN, governo Indonésia e líder resistência Papua nia beletur hamoto, para diálogo ida onde Hetan justiça, verdade na liberdade para povo Papua raci e haninia condições morais.
Solidarity for West Papua. Okay. Our solidarity for West Papua.
Hello, I'm Councillor Mark Riley and I'm the Acting Mayor of Moreland City Council. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge this message is being spoken on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung peoples The land was taken from them without a treaty process, consent or compensation, and sovereignty was never ceded. We wish to acknowledge them as the traditional owners and custodians of these lands and waterways, and would also like to pay our respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, as well as to all First Nations communities who significantly contribute to the life of our area. I was meant to speak to you from Bell Park in East Brunswick, where we planned to hold a special tree planting ceremony in honour of Dag Hammarskjöld, a West Papuan memorial tree. I would like to acknowledge Amos Wangai from West Papua, who was meant to help me plant the tree. Amos came to Australia on a traditional double outrigger canoe in 2006 with 42 other West Papuans seeking political asylum and wanting to break the news ban on what Indonesia was doing in West Papua and to the indigenous West Papuans. I would also like to acknowledge the Australian Office of the Federal Republic of West Papua, who initiated this and many other similar events. This office is there to grow hope for the future of West Papua, Indonesia and Australia, the three nations which will all benefit from this struggle. I'm speaking to you from my home because we are currently in lockdown. However, this does not stop us from advocating on behalf of our communities. 3.5 years ago, Moreland City Council had the honour of being represented at the first West Papuan Community Showcase, organised in partnership with the City of Darebin and Darebin Ethnic Communities Council. This was an opportunity to learn about the West Papuan history and commemorate the anniversary in West Papua's struggle for self-determination and sovereignty. Council continues to pay tribute to the West Papuan people. Events like the annual Morning Star flag raising ceremony acknowledge their commitment to their freedom and their right to build a safe, free and independent West Papua. Today, we remember the second Secretary General of the UN, Dag Hammarskjöld, and the Decolonization Program that he developed for West Papua in 1961. Dag Hammarskjöld died on the 18th of September 1961 in a plane crash during a mission to prevent civil war in the newly independent Congo. If Dag Hammarskjöld had lived to guide this decolonisation program through the General Assembly, West Papua might not be an Indonesian colony today. This message is recorded to support the will of West Papuans in their fundamental right to self-determination. We anticipate that trees planted in honour of Dag Hammarskjöld will fortify the action of states, NGOs and individuals to support a motion in the UN General Assembly so that West Papua's arguments for their right of sovereignty over their land can be debated. Therefore, the West Papua Tree Memorial Planting Ceremony continues to be an important event for West Papuans all over the world in their continuing struggle for independence. Council is committed to advocate, promote human rights and address issues of discrimination and marginalisation at the local, regional, national and international level. The Moreland Human Rights Policy 2016 to 2026 provides a framework and objectives for the implementation of Council's human rights obligations. Council has a long history of supporting the East Timorese people and other Australian communities. During the period of Indonesian occupation, Australian communities and individuals were active in the international solidarity movement, supporting East Timorese independence. Council is committed to promoting human rights and supporting the West Papuan people's struggle for the same dignified and equitable life in their communities that all Australians expect. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Marcus Byrne and I live in Queensland, Australia. I am supporting a petition to the United Nations to have West Papua recognised as a decolonised nation. Today I am creating in my garden the Hammarskjöld West Papua Ivan Smith Memorial. In planting this native Australian tree, I am commemorating the work of former UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld and his trusted Australian associate Ivan Smith towards establishing a decolonisation program for West Papua. This tree is also being planted as a tribute to the courageous people of West Papua, who yearn for and sometimes die for their freedom. Thank you.
Free, 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 free. Pacific must be free. Free, 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 free. Pacific must be free. Pacific must be free.
Good afternoon, Mr. Guterres. When you and I were lads in the 1950s, the world had begun the process of removing European colonisation around the globe. New countries were being born. From the former British Empire emerged an independent Fiji, Sri Lanka and Tanzania. Likewise, new nations emerged from other colonial countries like Mozambique, Vanuatu and Suriname. Almost everywhere in the world, prior Indigenous owners were reinstated to their land. Apart from in Melanesian West Papua, formerly Dutch West New Guinea, where the UN in 1969 transferred colonial control from the Netherlands to a new Asian colonist, Indonesia, following their invasion in December 1961. Could you please explain how half of the island of New Guinea can be designated in Asia and the other half in the South Pacific, when, at the time of the UN vote, the inappropriately named Act of Free Choice, around 97% of the population of West Papua were racially and culturally Melanesian and indigenous to the land. I ask of you, what links do they have with their brutal Asian military occupier, Indonesia? The world community demands that Melanesian West Papua be given a legitimate vote, allowed to determine their own destiny, as was provided to your own Portuguese colony, Timor-Leste, in 1999. Your clear explanation of the above circumstances is sought as a matter of urgency. In memory of your murdered predecessor, Dag Hammarskjöld, and to commemorate West Papua's return to the business at the UN, we will plant this lime tree here in about 3 months' time, and as always, share the harvest with our neighbours and friends. John and Trish Grattan-Wilson, Warrnambool, Australia.
Hello, my name is Faye Gregson. I volunteer at the Women's Office of the Federal Republic of West Papua. I became involved in 2006 when 43 asylum seekers from West Papua reached Australia in a small handmade outrigger canoe, fleeing persecution and to raise awareness of human rights abuses the West Papuan people suffer at the hands of the Indonesian military. Today, I am planting this Australian native bottle brush to commemorate Dag Hammarskjöld's contribution to peacemaking and the development of the United Nations. We remember the second Secretary General of the UN for his ethical, moral, visionary, peacemaking diplomacy in this year on the 75th birthday, when our world is in need of qualities such as these. Nations struggling under oppression, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. May the legacy of Dag Hammarskjöld's life, work and writings continue to inspire present and future leaders, to assist and refine the United Nations in helping bring peace and healing to our world. We lament Dag Hammarskjöld's untimely death and the OPEX plan that would have led to West Papua's independence. May this beautiful purple bottle brush be a reminder that truth, justice, liberation and love cannot die, and Dag Hammarskjöld's legacy will live on to inspire us. We specifically pray the United Nations will right the wrongs of the illegal and sham referendum known as the Act of Free Choice in 1969, and that West Papua will achieve self-determination after a long and costly struggle. This was the mission of Dag Hammarskjöld, who is remembered as a champion of self-determination. Happy birthday to the United Nations, and may the seed of Dag Hammarskjöld's untimely death grow into an ever-enlarging tree for peace, justice and healing for our world.
So today, Peter and Jeanette Woods in Bittern, Melbourne, are planting a tree in honour of Dag Hammarskjöld, who tried to but did not succeed in bringing West Papua to self-determination. But we believe his vision will soon be achieved.
Hello Olketa, I'm Grace Healy on behalf of the Solomon Islands in solidarity for West Papua. We plant this tree in commemoration of Dag Hammarskjöld's contribution to peacemaking and the development of the United Nations. We remember the second Secretary General for his ethical, moral, visionary and humane peacemaking at this time at the United Nations' 75th birthday. When our world is in need of qualities such as these to help self-determination for nations struggling against oppression, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. May the legacy of his life, work, and writings continue to inspire present and future leaders to assist and refine the UN's role to bring peace and healing to our world. We lament Dag Hammarskjöld's untimely death and the OPEX plan not implemented that would have secured West Papua's self-determination. May this tree be a reminder that truth, justice, liberation, and love cannot die, and that Dag Hammarskjöld's life and legacy lives on to inspire us now and for the future generation. Happy birthday to the United Nations.
Egsa an Cranin mar a tá sé ins na leitheanta inniu, agus ag siúd an Cran mar a bheidh sé ins na leitheanta atá le teann. This is the seedling as it is today, and this is what it will look like in time to come. Chwyrg yn Crown Costansio, yn ihir na herin, ag dyna daspalach sgalfalion teilig nefa, yn ochrach chwynia Dag Hammarskjöld, dara olrwn ei yn nasiwnente, a fi yn y chrawn cosynta ag yn tichain, ag yn gniasw agos ag yn ffein rialw. Ag ffal bas do ddiach seg tacw le ffein rialw ag cynne i'r Papua. Fi'n i'r Papua ag ffehir ffehin y sera, a nes ag chachram leisio na nasiwn ente. This sweet chestnut tree was planted in Irish soil by members of the St. Martin de Porres Homeschool Apostolate in dedication to the memory of Dag Hammarskjöld, 2nd UN Secretary General, a champion of peace, healing and self-determination. At the time of his death, he was supporting the self-determination of West Papuans. West Papua awaits its liberation on the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. Narlagay dia an Crownshaw, agus narlagay dia pobl Papua. May God prosper this tree, and may God prosper the people of West Papua.
Ouais, à l'occasion de la commémoration du 59e anniversaire de M. Dag Hammarskjöld, ancien secrétaire général des Nations Unies, qui fut assassiné dans les années 1961 dans notre pays, la RDC, la République démocratique du Congo. Nous sommes là, nous les femmes enseignantes, regroupant en AMECA, en train de commémorer son 59e anniversaire. Nous sommes là, on s'est décidé aujourd'hui c'est le jour même de son enterrement en Suède. Le 29 septembre, c'est le jour que M. Dag fut enterré. Nous allons maintenant, aujourd'hui, planter notre truie palme, c'est-à-dire notre palmier qui est dehors, si nous pouvons nous lever, et planter notre palmier en mémoire de l'ancien secrétaire général des Nations Unies, en mémoire de l'ancien secrétaire général des Nations Unies. Nous allons planter ce palmier qui est symbole de la force, de l'unité, de l'amour qu'avait montré l'ancien secrétaire général. Pour cela, je passe aussi la parole à Maman Chantal qui va le faire aussi en anglais. Elle va vous parler, elle va expliquer à tout le monde ce qu'il y a. Merci beaucoup, Maman Chantal, vous avez la parole.
Yes, we are here to commemorate Dag Hammarskjöld. He was the former General Secretary of the United Nations here in our country. He conflict in Dola, today Zambia. We are there to say thank you to him because Congolese women teachers cannot forget you. Very thank you.
Oui, Maman Marceline, si vous avez aussi un mot, c'est en mémoire de Dag que nous sommes en train de célébrer ça. Nous avons planté notre palmier. Je crois que si tu as un mot, tu peux ajouter aussi.
Oui, juste dire que nous, les femmes enseignantes, regroupées dans un bureau nommé AMECA, ici en RDC, nous avons pensé célébrer ensemble avec le monde le 29 septembre, le jour où Dag Hammarskjöld fut enterré. Nous avons pensé planter cette palmier pour lui dire merci pour tout ce qu'il a fait pour notre pays. Merci Dag.
Merci.
Hello, my name's Kim Wilson from Glen Iris, Melbourne. We plant this shrub in commemoration of Dag Hammarskjöld's contribution to peacemaking and the development of the United Nations. Dag is remembered for his ethical, moral, visionary, humane peacemaking at this time of the United Nations' 75th birthday, when our world is in need of qualities such as these to help self-determination for nations struggling against oppression, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. May the legacy of Dag Hammarskjöld's life, work, and writings continue to inspire present and future leaders, assist and refine the United Nations role to bring peace and healing to our world. We lament Dag Hammarskjöld's untimely death and the OPEC's plan not implemented, which would have secured West Papua's independence. May this shrub be a reminder that truth, justice, liberation and love cannot die. Dag Hammarskjöld's life and legacy does live on to inspire us now and for future generation. Happy birthday to the United Nations. And now I'd like to plant my shrub. Go. And done. Happy birthday.
Hi, I'm Cyrus Jensen. It wasn't too long when I migrated from Liberia to Australia as a refugee. West Papua awaits for its liberation on the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. I stand in solidarity with the people of West Papua in their fight for independence, as I can relate to the problems they face having grown up in Liberia.
Alright, we're going to play the flexible for this is actually 7 hole. 7 hole represent 7 states of West Papua. Okay, so we're going to play the 7 festival. This is Sampari mean morning star. Morning star, and Elizabeth Esther mean deliverance. So we're going to play the festival for West Papua. Freedom. So we do it now. Now we see Elizabeth is doing it right now with her mother. So hey, go for it. Go for it. All right. Very good. Very good. All right. Very down. Very down. More hands. Alright. Coloring 7 plan of festival grow. Represent West Papua 7 style for West Papua. Seven hall for 7 style of West Papua. So we thank you and say
Hooray!
Hooray!
Good job. Say.
Good job.
Say again.
Yeah.
Good job.
Good job.
Begin with.
Sampari and Kaka is doing. Okay. Bye-bye.
In commemoration of Dag Hammarskjöld's contribution to peacemaking and the development of the United Nations. May the legacy of his life, work and writings continue to inspire present and future leaders to assist and refine the UN's role to bring peace and healing to our world. We remember the second Secretary General of this ethical, moral, visionary and humane peacemaking at this time of the United Nations 75th birthday, when our world is in need of qualities such as this to help self-determination for nations struggling against oppression, climate change and COVID-19 pandemic. May this tree be a reminder that truth, justice, liberation and love cannot die.
Well, right now we got a tree. This is eucalyptus tree, and now we are standing on the land of Wurundjeri, which is we pay a lot of respect to Wurundjeri people, the First Nation of this land. And now we got this eucalyptus tree. We are going to plant this tree. So we're planting this tree.
Hammarskjöld, with his motion for West Papua decolonization in UN for free of West Papua. Plant and live in this land for many years. So for us, I think we can just adaptation with this land.
This is a kangaroo apple. It's a native Australian plant. It's dedicated by Canberra-based West Papua and friends to Dag Hammarskjöld, second UN Secretary General, a champion of peace, a healing, and self-determination. West Papuan waits for its liberation on this 75th anniversary of United Nations 2020.
Freedom from West Papua, all what don't belong to me. Only like you freedom, freedom from West Papua, all what don't belong to me. Everything belong home. Now believe
Papua, Merdeka!
We plant this beautiful magnolia tree in memory of the great statesman Dag Hammarskjöld, a man who believed in the right of all nations to live in freedom and peace. He worked tirelessly and fiercely to achieve this through peaceful means until his life was taken so cruelly. Due to his heart was the freedom of West Papua, and it was only because his life was cut short that he did not achieve the same. Therefore, we dedicate this tree not only to Dag Hammarskjöld, but also to the people of West Papua and their fight for freedom. I think I'm gonna...
Wurundjeri and Bullock, traditional custodians of the people of this land where this tree is going to be planted. I acknowledge present and past elders. I plant this native bottlebrush tree in the park behind my house. This will attract native birds to the parkland when flowering. There have been many and are many visionary people in this world. The ethics, moral and in some cases humane peacemaking work at this time is relevant to the 75th birthday celebrations of the United Nations. In particular, I remember Dag Hammarskjöld, who is acknowledged as a peacemaker during the developmental years of the United Nations. His legacy of his life's work, writings, today still inspire our leaders to refine and assist the UN's peacekeeping role. In particular, I bring before you Dag's ultimate untimely death, and therefore the non-implementation of the OPEX plan that would have secured West Papua's self-determination. May this native Australian bush remind all that truth, justice, liberation and love cannot die. Most Australians struggle with the oppression of the Indigenous West Papuans, who are one of our closest neighbours. Please remember what Dag was working towards and continue the good fight for all who suffer under repression. Happy birthday to the United Nations on their 75th, and I look forward to hearing about the courageous work of the UN for the West Papuan Indigenous people.
Bulabinaga everyone, my name is Andy Holmes and I'm the coordinator of the Free Papua Movement Australia. Today I'm with fellow activist Pauline.
Bula everyone. Today we remember the second Secretary General, Dag Hammarskjöld, for his ethical, moral, visionary and humane peacemaking at this time of the United Nations 75th birthday, when our world is in need of qualities such as these to help self-determination for nations struggling against oppression, climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic.
May the legacy of his life, work and writings continue to inspire present and future leaders to assist and refine the UN's role to bring peace and healing to our world. We lament Dag Hammarskjöld's untimely death and the OPEX plan not implemented that would have secured West Papua's self-determination. May this tree be a reminder that truth, justice, liberation and love cannot die, and that Dag Hammarskjöld's life and legacy lives on to inspire us now and for future generations. Happy birthday to the United Nations.
Hello there, my name is Aretha Brown. I'm the first female and the youngest Prime Minister of the National Indigenous Youth Parliament here in Australia. I just wanted to show my support and my solidarity with the Free West Papua movement and show my support as they wait for liberation and for independence here. And as it falls into the 8th anniversary of Dag Hammarskjöld's death, I want to show my support and my recognition to my West Papuan brothers and sisters. As Indigenous peoples here in Australia, we know what the fight for sovereignty is like. We're still fighting for it. And yeah, just wanted to show my support here today. Unfortunately, I don't have a tree that I can plant because I'm in an apartment building. So there's nothing I can really plant, but yep, from the Youth Parliament, we send our support and we send our recognition. Free West Papua.
plant this tree in aid of Dag Hammarskjöld and for the independence that he hoped for all nations, including West Papua, which didn't quite make it. And I'll move in close to get the right. And then I'll go zoom in on that. I'm planting this lime tree, remembering Dag Hammarskjöld on the anniversary and the United Nations on 75th anniversary, and also as we think about West Papua. And I've got my shirt from the Christian Conference of Asia meeting of church leaders last year in Fiji with the West Papuan flag upon it. Dag Hammarskjöld, one of his wonderful sayings was that the whole purpose of human rights is to get rid of fear, that help people to not live with fear. And he initiated wonderful preventative diplomacy of the kind we all need to practice today so that the world can live in peace and vulnerable people can be without fear. So we plant this tree, a little seed for a better world without fear, and in which all people, the whole human family, can live in peace, as we give thanks for the particular contribution of Dag Hammarskjöld and of the United Nations. Amen.
The Burundara branch of the Melbourne West Papua Association acknowledges the Wurundjeri people, the traditional custodians of the land where we will plant this olive tree. We acknowledge the elders past and present. Olive trees are a symbol of peace, and the United Nations emblem features a wreath of olive branches. We plant this olive tree in honour of Dag Hammarskjöld, the UN's Second Secretary General, for his contribution to peacemaking and the development of the United Nations in this year of the UN's 75th birthday. We remember him for his ethics and vision and his support for self-determination for nations struggling against oppression. May the legacy of his life, work and writings continue to inspire leaders to adhere to the UN's role to bring peace and healing to our world by supporting human rights, including the right for self-determination and freedom of expression. We plant this olive seed to honour Dag Hammarskjöld's plan for self-determination for West Papua, a plan that was halted by his untimely death, and hope that as the seed grows, UN support grows for righting the wrong done to the West Papuan people when the UN accepted the results of the brutal, fraudulent act of free choice, and that support for adding West Papua to the decolonization list will also grow among UN member states.
Bird in a cage, sold on the streets of the city, torn from the forest, always singing. What could be sadder? The birds locked in a cage, people in prison, land enslaved. Remembering the joy of flying, remembering the joy of freedom.
Go, give us. Right out. Okay, Phil. There you go.
Do I start
Yep,
talking?
start.
Hi, I'm Phil Leatherby, one of the pastors of the church, one of the churches here in Bunbury, and we're about to plant a tree in memory of Dag Hammarskjöld, that great United Nations leader in the 60s, as far as I remember. And we know that he was a man of great intention, determination. He saw, whilst he was in Africa and doing trips there, many countries become independent of colonial type rules. And he was a man of justice, of integrity, and he was doing all of this mainly to help the independence for West Papua. He met with secretly often with President Kennedy, General MacArthur, to implement plans for this to happen. And so, in memory of Dag Hammarskjöld, we plant this tree so that this great man can be remembered for all of his good works.
The location is Hepzibah Farm in Stratham.
Yeah. Okay, is that okay?
A call to decolonize West Papua. The subjection of people to alien subjugation, domination, and exploitation constitutes a denial of fundamental human rights, is contrary to the Charter of the United Nations, and is an impediment to the promotion of world peace and cooperation. In the year of 1964, the people of Malta exercised their inalienable right to self-determination in accordance with their freely expressed will and by virtue of that right, determined their political status and freely pursued their economic, social, and cultural development, thus attaining a full measure of self-government. The people of West Papua must be given their own voice in the United Nations and continue the work of Dag Hammarskjöld by listing West Papua with its Decolonization Committee and uphold the right of self-determination via an internationally supervised vote. As a quote by Dag Hammarskjöld, "Never, for the sake of peace and quiet, deny your own experience or convictions." This tree honours the second United Nations Secretary-General Dag Hammarskjöld from 1953 to 1961, a champion of self-determination. West Papua waits for its liberation on the 75th anniversary of the United Nations 2020.